Peace and blessings. This is Satori. We're doing another vibe session. And last time what we dealt with is, we're still dealing with the truth series, of course. Last time what we dealt with is, we explained that truth can be measured by the decisions that we make. And it's evident by the decisions that we make, basically. Then we left off with the thought that truth is to exist within inside you. Truth is to exist within inside me. If we could, go back and revisit, the scripture that I had mentioned, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So we know there is an awareness of truth that should exist within inside us. So with that thought, we're going to go ahead and deal with part 6 today in the truth series. And basically talking about truth is you. Truth is me. Because truth is to exist inside us. So as we get into this, I want you to think about this real fast. Is that you are your own first truth. You are your own first truth. And there's a Psalms that reads, it's pretty interesting, and it reads, "Behold, thou desire truth in the inward parts." In other words, in the inner workings of ourselves, within our inner environment. And then it goes on to say, "In the hidden part, thou shalt make me know wisdom." And we'll get into that later on in the series, but understand that we are our first truth. And so to be able to find truth, that means it begins with us seeing ourselves. So today we got to think about it. We got to make this thing very, very personal, because remember we said truth is personal. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we see when we see ourselves? When you look in the mirror, what do you see? Then you can ask the question, what is it that I am producing consistently in my life? Then not the things, not the hit and miss things in our lives, but what are we producing consistently in our lives? And we have to sit there and look at that, because that's very important, because that's going to bring us to our own truth. So we got to ask the question, so what are some of the things? It don't always have to be negative, it could be positive. But some of the things is, am I always producing strife in my life? I'm always seem like I'm always in disappointing type of situations? Am I always I'm always having like conflicts in relationships? Again, we have to self-evaluate, and we have to come to that personal truth where we understand that we have to ask the question, how are these things occurring in our lives? And as soon as we ask how, it brings us in the path to be able to discover the solution to that personal reality that we're experiencing. Now, also, we can flip it and we can look at it and be like, am I always, do I have fairly good relationships? It seems like I'm always in harmony. I don't have a lot of drama. I don't have a lot of conflict in my life. My life is kind of easy flowing. You sit back and look at that as well, and look at how are those expressions that you recognize, or how are those realities that you're experiencing are into being. It's very important to know how, because if you know how, that means you can consistently continue to produce it. If you don't know the how, you can't find the solution. So if you're trying to change something, you got to understand how it exists and how to change it. And that's the importance what truth brings, because truth brings that knowledge of how into our situation. So understand that we are our first truth. All right. To ignore ourselves is to invite ourselves into a life of theory. So if we fail to see ourselves, we're going to invite ourselves into a life of theory. What is a life of theory? A life of theory is when we live in our lives with a pattern of ideas or belief systems that is absent of reality. In other words, we're functioning and we're living our lives that's predominantly with objective knowledge, and that is predominantly filled with knowledge that's detached from reality. It means, in our thinking, we never really connect with the practicality of the thing. We never connect with the consequences of the thing. We never really measure the results of our belief system. And so when we're functioning like this, you're living a life of theory. You're living a life of theory when you don't understand the cause and effects of your thinking or your belief systems. And so there's got to be a point where you have to discover your own untruth, or you have to discover your own truth. You got to visit the beliefs that you have existing inside you. You got to visit the knowledge base that you have, that you're operating off of, or the pattern ideas, because this is going to determine if we're living a life of theory or we're living a life of reality, which is truth. So, and some of us are on a personal quest for truth. So those that are on a personal quest for truth, this begins when we identify our own untruths. Our quest for truths begin when we identify our own untruths, not nobody else's, but our own. Think about that. And recognizing our own untruth is enlightenment. Now, that's kind of influenced by the Psalms that I quoted. You desire the truth in the inward parts, and in the hidden part, y'all make me know wisdom. So it shows you that truth leads to the path of insight. Now, so how do we uncover, so what is it saying? What am I saying when I say recognizing our own untruth? Okay? And when I say recognize our own truth, that brings in enlightenment. So what are we saying? So there's a process as we're trying to gain truth that we all have to visit. We have to uncover the knowledge bases, and we have to uncover the belief systems or the pattern ideas that doesn't heighten our awareness. Okay? It doesn't heighten our awareness, and it doesn't bring us into the knowledge of the nature of a thing or an activity. So if that is so, that is an untruth that exists that we have to uncover. All right? Another thing that we have to uncover. We have to uncover the knowledge, our knowledge or beliefs or pattern ideas that doesn't explain the outcome of things. If all the information we have received, that we're functioning off of, doesn't uncover or explain the outcome of a thing, that means that is an untruth that exists, and we have to uncover that. All right? If we are functioning off of knowledge information that doesn't know the consequences, that doesn't give us the consequences of the thing, that is an untruth that we must uncover. And then, of course, if we don't see the results of our beliefs, of our pattern of ideas, or of our knowledge base, that is an untruth that must be uncovered. So until we see ourselves and begin to face how we think, how we believe, in the ideas that we are actualizing in our lives, until we sit down and spend time with that and to self-reflect, and which that's part of meditation and part of your prayer life, that is important, because if you don't spend time uncovering the truth, then you gotta ask the question, then what are you really doing? Because if you're not uncovering the truth, that means you're advancing a theory. And it means you're creating more of a life of theory versus a life centered around truth and reality. So let's think about this. So truth brings us to an enlightenment. All right? So, and we say that, here, check this out. Truth brings us to an enlightenment. Enlightenment is insight. All right? And when we uncover our own truths, it brings us into an insight. So when we uncover an untruth, it brings us into an insight. An insight, we can say, is truth. And then truth, it's kind of funny that we go back right back and hit it. We say insight is truth, but then we also could say that truth brings us to insight. All right? So enlightenment is insight. And we uncover our own, when we cover our own untruths, it brings us to insight. And then insight is truth. And then truth brings us to insight. Just kind of playing with that a little bit, but if you pay attention to what I just said, there's some nuggets in that. All right? So failing to see our own untruths will cause us to consume our own paradoxes. And I want you to think about that. So when we fail to recognize our own untruths that exist inside us, it will cause us to consume paradoxes. So I want to end on that note right there. I want you to understand that truth is you. And if we continue to fail to identify our own untruths, it means we are allowing ourselves to entertain more paradoxes. And it means that we're causing ourselves to live more of a life of a theory. Once again, we'll be back at this again. I greet you in love and light. One love. Be blessed.